Hello, and welcome to the Franchise Life. I am your host, Stacie Shannon. Today, we have two very special guests with us that are here to talk about and introduce a brand called HealthSource, America's Chiropractor. And with me today, I have Dr. Tomschack, who is the CEO and founder of HealthSource, and then Aaron Sawyer, who is the Director of Franchise Development. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, okay. So Dr. Tomschack, otherwise referred to as Dr. T in the industry, we're going to start with you. You being the founder, there's nobody better to introduce the brand and, you know, what this business is about and how it originated. So please do share.
All right. Okay. So let me just set the stage for what differentiates us from everybody else within our industry. We are the premier brand. We're the Tesla of chiropractic. So what does that mean? That means that we are technology-based. We're a blend of chiropractic and rehab. And when I say rehab, we're talking about the high-tech stuff. That makes it easier to learn. It's easier to scale. And the best of all of this is that it gives out the patients that we serve a much better result than the rest of the industry generates. So we're the Tesla, both for the patients we serve and for our franchise owners as well. Okay. So how do we start? Is that where you wanted to segue?
Yeah, well, just give us a high-level overview of HealthSource. So it's focused on chiropractic.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have a long longevity. You were established in 1994, first started franchising in 2006. You have over 130 locations open throughout the United States. So yeah, share, how did you come up with this brand?
You've done your due diligence. Well done.
I do my homework.
Well, as you mentioned, the whole genesis of this concept that we have today really began in '94. That's when I graduated from chiropractic college, and I'm a bit of a unicorn within the industry. Doesn't make me any better or any worse than anybody else. I have a unique skill set in that I studied business both at the undergraduate and graduate level, and worked in the business world for several years before I went back to chiropractic college. So I love business. I started my first company at age I kid you not, in grade 4, we printed up our stock certificates. We sold them to anybody who had change so that we could go buy candy bars and sell them to the rest of the kids in the neighborhood. Been working ever since. All right.
Awesome.
So 94 is when I graduated. I immediately opened up a practice. We grew fast. Within 6 years, I owned the largest chiropractic clinic in the entire state of Ohio. And there's a lot of clinics in this state. And then I retired from practice at a very young age. And I was only able to do that because everything was systemized. And basically, that was the genesis of the investor model that we now run. And so then I opened up another clinic, and I could do it every 90 days. And as I was opening up that fourth clinic, I was literally sitting at kind of a think tank. And I was trying to, my vision was expanding. Instead of just opening up my own clinics, I'm thinking, well, what else can be done that's on a bigger scale that can actually change the profession and improve the profession? Because back then, we were a very high-tech model for the time. It's archaic compared to what we do today, but it's still far more advanced than most of the clinics are today. And I knew that we could do something bigger. And I thought, you know what? Everything is systematized. Let's franchise this. And so that was 2006. And that's when we began franchising our model. And this model that we have is constantly evolving. And so today we're sitting at actually 140 clinics with 45 sold, not yet open. So we're cresting over the 200 mark. And that's been the genesis. So it was started with our own clinics. I retired young. We franchised this model. And now originally our target market was other chiropractors. And we were very unique in that model. But due to a host of economic and psychographic changes, that's not the right model for us today. So we've pivoted, and the investors are our current model.
So that's interesting, and great segue, because that was going to be another question of mine. Is with this 100 or so longevity that you have of these clinics, they are licensed chiropractors that have been the investors traditionally. So you mentioned you've shifted. You are allowing non-chiropractic investors to invest, which is an absolute great opportunity for people that aren't currently in the medical field to get into it. So why the shift? Why are you allowing this now?
Fantastic question. Here's exactly the reason. So we regularly are asked to teach on a lot of the chiropractic university campuses. And so, we go we're there all, if it's not every other week, it's sometimes every single week. And if we're standing in front of a class that's soon to graduate, we'll ask them, this is a standard question. Okay, raise your hand. How many of you guys want to open your own clinic? If there's a class of 50 people, maybe 2 hands will go up. Now, this is in stark contrast to the way it was when we launched in 2006. When we asked that question, 48 hands would go up and 2 would not go. Now it's diametrically the opposite. And so we have to ask why. Well, let's dig in. Well, here's the reason. As we all know, the cost of higher education has skyrocketed way faster than inflation. And the average student is now graduating $250,000 plus in debt. Stacie, they can't qualify for an SBA to get into their own practice. They simply can't qualify, and very few have people who can co-sign for them. Thus, 2 hands going up out of 50 that want to open their own clinic or their own franchise versus 48 who want to go to work for somebody else. So, you can read the tea leaves, right? Mm-hmm. They're perfect for our model, because our model is a labor-light model. When we open up a new clinic, we start with 2 chiropractors and a front desk. So it's a 3-person start. And so the demographics of today's and psychographics, because there's psychographical components involved as well, and those coupled together make it a perfect opportunity for HealthSource to make that particular pivot, which we've done successfully. And about 10% of our licenses are now owned by non-chiros, and that's going to absolutely explode.
Very interesting, but it makes absolute sense. But I would guess also, a lot of the individuals that are just going to chiropractor school, you shared with us, you had a business background, you love business, and many times it's those business skills that mm-hmm. really make great franchise owners. So what does that model look like? So if I want to invest in HealthSource, I have an MBA, no medical background whatsoever. Legally, how am I able to own and operate a HealthSource location?
Good question. It's done in exactly the same fashion as has been done extraordinarily successfully in, I'm going to call them sister industries, such as optometry, dentistry, and veterinary medicine, where all of the big growth is in the franchise sector and has been for the last decade, right? So we followed that model. It's already been written and it's already proven, so we follow that particular model. And that is, so if someone like you got an MBA, so we know that you can read a P&L, right? So we don't have to teach you how to do that. Thank God, right? So what we would do is teach you how to manage your franchise, and we teach you how to find the right people, the right team members. I use the word team members, who will then deliver the appropriate services. So what your main job is to manage it. And when I say manage it, I mean looking at the KPIs. Let's take a look at the statistics daily. Let's always monitor what's going on, which doesn't take very long. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So your job becomes more of an analyst than anything else. Inspect what you expect.
Love that saying. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So when you introduced HealthSource to us, you mentioned it's chiropractic and you have a rehab part. So one of the things that really attracted me initially when I learned about this brand is your multiple revenue streams. So can you, before we transition to Aaron here, Dr. T, can you go into the various revenue streams that a HealthSource clinic provides?
Oh, certainly. Okay, love it. All right, so the same thing. Number one, let's call it first revenue stream is chiropractic care. Every brand inside chiropractic has that, and that's what most of them have, and most don't have anything else. So that's the single stream. That doesn't set us apart from anybody. Okay, that's kind of like same old, same old. Then everything next is what separates us. Okay, so we move into active functional rehab, which is exercise-based rehab care, which is all video-based. I mean, it is. We can teach you how to do this in a half a day. And I mean, you who has zero personal training or rehab experience, we can show you how to do all this in a half a day. And so that's active functional rehab, which is very unique the way we do it. So every single new patient that comes into one of our clinics, they're put through a very simple movement screen, which is very easy to grade. And wherever they fail on those movements in that movement screen, we just, our person, the doc in the rehab just enters that into the computer, and up will pop the exercise program, the rehab program for that particular patient. So everyone is treated uniquely. It's very rare to see this done this way. So that's revenue stream number 2. And then we move into revenue stream number 3, which is spinal decompression. And it's not just normal spinal decompression, it's next gen or third generation. This is tailored for somebody who's got a herniated disc or bad arthritis in their low back, and these people are everywhere. I mean, 50% of adult Americans suffer from occasional from low back pain. 80% of adult Americans have back pain, occasional back pain. 50% have chronic. This is a recession-proof business. So that third revenue stream attacks that and fixes herniated discs. And then we move into high-powered photobiomodulation, or more commonly referred to as laser. And what a laser does is it accelerates, and especially the new tech lasers that we use today are very different from those that were on the market just 2-3 years ago. Greatly accelerates the healing process. So let's just say you have a significant injury. You come to see us, give me 5 minutes with a laser, you're going to be feeling better. It's that fast. Very, very high tech, and just accelerates. So that's number 4. And then we move into products, and we have a private label nutritional line, which is very top shelf at mid shelf price, which accelerates and expedites the healing process. And then we have also a subscription-based wellness program. So we're the only model out there that takes care of patients who have real problems, which, by the way, is pretty much that's what we want to see, because when someone's got a real problem, we're going to change your life. So it's more fun for us, for the teams. It truly is more fun than just a simple slip and fall. More fun, and it produces a ton more revenue. So once we fix the problem, then we have a subscription-based wellness plan. And a lot of our franchises are anywhere from 30 to 60% wellness. So it's automatic, auto debit every single month. They come in, they get their routine care and move on. And then our 7th revenue stream, by the way, nobody in this industry has got seven revenue streams, and absolutely nobody's got this next one, which is sleep. We have figured out the solution. We have a proprietary 1 plus 1 program equals 2 equals sound sleep. So if you don't sleep, you don't heal. So it doesn't matter how good the work we does inside the franchise, inside our clinics. If the patient's going home and they're all stressed out, and everybody is today, and they're not sleeping, they're not healing. So we've got a solution to that, and we've got people getting phenomenal sleep cross country right now. We just released it like last week.
Wow.
And it works like an absolute champ, and it allows our patients now to sleep better so they can get better healing, they get better results, and the clinic does better financially. So everybody wins. Those are our 7 streams.
Incredible. So that's another, it is absolutely, this is a recession-resistant business. You have multiple revenue streams. You have a subscription-based aspect to it. And again, before I transition, the one other thing that I think is very attractive is this is an insurance-based business. It can be insurance or cash pay. Is that correct?
Yes. Thanks for bringing that up, because I meant to and forgot. Yes. For us, we do not discriminate. So as long as I have a pulse and I'm alive and I'm leading this company, we will accept insurance. I don't think it's fair when providers don't accept insurance. I just don't think it's right. If a patient has insurance, we ought to file it for them. It's the right way to treat somebody, right? So if you get hurt and you go someplace, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to file your insurance because I don't know how," or, "Oh, it's complicated." Well, shame on you. You as a provider, you should always take care of a patient regardless of who is paying. So we take care of patients who have insurance, who don't have insurance. Actually, the mix across the company on any given week is about 50-50. 50% of our revenue comes from insurance, 50% comes from cash.
Incredible. Well, Dr. T, thank you. Your passion is, infectious. I can see, obviously you love the brand, you founded it, but I think that the technology aspect of this business and the low employee count is so attractive in addition to everything you've already said. So with that said, Aaron, let's transfer to you. How are you doing, Aaron?
Doing very well. Thank you.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
Okay, Aaron. So Dr. T touched on that this is a light employee model. 2 chiropractic physicians and 1 front desk person. So is that from the onset of when a clinic opens up, or would that be when for more of a mature clinic?
That's actually a really good question. So that would be from the outset when you set up the clinic. That associate chiropractor or that second chiropractor, when you first launch a clinic, is going to spend the majority of their time running the rehab portion of the business, right? As the clinic grows over time and as the patient base ramps, then that associate chiropractor would shift into full-time chiropractic work. And you look to bring in a 4th head, a full-time rehab specialist. So at full tilt, you'd have 4 full-time employees, but to start, you start with 3.
All right. And then we already touched on competition. Dr. T mentioned that there is no other chiropractor brand out there that offers this level of service to their customer base. So who is the ideal customer? I mean, what does that customer look like across the board with a HealthSource?
It's a really good question. I know we still got Dr. T with us right now. Do you want to answer that?
I knew that was coming to me. Yeah, certainly. Happy to answer. Ideal customer for us is, honestly, Stacie, somebody who's got a problem, somebody who hurts. And we'll take care of anybody that comes in, obviously, but our marketing is geared towards identifying people who have a real problem, people who have herniated discs, people who have torn shoulders, rotator cuffs, things like that. They cannot move their neck. Maybe they've got a wicked case of arthritis. Maybe they've got burning pain down their arm or numbness or tingling in their leg or toes or fingers. Give us all that stuff. We'll take care of it. So it's people who have a real issue.
And even the chiropractic side of it. So my husband, he goes to a chiropractor, I think, once every other week. And it's for preventative care and adjustment. So even though what you mentioned are like issues or problems that people are coming in for, the chiropractic also has a very much of a recurring revenue stream associated with it.
It absolutely does, and that's the wellness portion. That's what we call that's our 6th revenue stream, or we call it our wellness club. And so let's just say it's your husband. He came in, he was out golfing, he twisted, he had a wicked backswing, and he fell down. Honest to God, we hear that all the time. They fall down on a golf course. I kid you not. And they come in and they can't move, and all they want to do is get back on a golf course. So this is your husband, and so we'll take care of him. Let's get that fixed. Let's say we get it all fixed. Let's say it's, I don't know. Let's say it's 2 weeks later, or it's 4 weeks later. It doesn't matter. It's fixed. And because he wants to maintain the fluidity that he now has, because we'll improve range of motion in all the joints. I mean, you got 7 joints in between each bone in your neck, 7 individual joints. Those things can become gummed up, if you will. And let's say we get your husband's joints. He's moving great. He wants to maintain that. He may choose to join our wellness club and come in for a periodic adjustment. By the way, we've got a clinic about 15 minutes from where you live in Royal Palm. There's a plug.
I need to go check that out. I should have done the podcast from your clinic. That would have been a nice surprise, huh?
Yep.
Okay. So, and you guys can decide who wants to take this question, but I will say, when I'm presenting concepts to my clients, many will express interest in the medical field, but when I present something such as a chiropractic or physical therapy type concept, many times I get met with a little bit of a resistance, more based on fear, because it's not something that they're familiar with, nor can they, imagine how they could run a medical business successfully. So how do you address individuals' fear when they simply have a business background, no medical background, of going for something like this? Because, and we'll get into the unit economics, but the unit economics are pretty phenomenal.
Aaron, do you mind if I jump in first?
Go ahead. I'll piggyback off of your comments.
All right, this is really cool. So, Stacie, I look at it as a puzzle. So let's say you got this great big puzzle. Let's say you're a 2-year-old, and the puzzle consists of just 2 pieces. You got to put these 2 pieces together, right? So for us, it's simple because we know how to build a puzzle, and we know it's just 2 pieces. But when you're young and you don't know how to do this, it can be very scary. So the chiropractors, when they're graduating, they've never had a real business class. So they're frightened, and this is part of the psychographical reasons that some of them, even if they may have funding, will not open up a practice on their own when they're graduating, is because they're scared to death of the business side. You, on the other hand, or somebody else who understands the business side, you've got the other side of the puzzle. And now you're scared of, but I don't understand the clinical stuff. Well, guess what? You're not going to be doing the clinical stuff anyways. That's not something you need to have a mastery of by any stretch. Does that make sense? So if anything, this model actually works better because now we've got a person who loves business, understands the lexicon, can analyze statistics and debug them, if you will. That's half the puzzle. And that's really, really important. It doesn't matter how good clinically a chiropractor might be. If they don't understand the business side, they're never going to be successful. So the investor who understands business now hires competent chiropractors who we then upgrade. We, meaning HealthSource, upgrades their clinical set because what we do, they've not been taught in school. And the cool thing is it is very easy because it's very high tech. It's very easy to learn. So if an investor wants to learn the stuff, they absolutely can. And they're going to learn the basics of it, whether they want to or not, simply by osmosis, because it is that simple.
Right.
So it's 2 pieces of the puzzle that work seamlessly together. Great
analogy. I love that. That's perfect. So, Aaron, what would you have to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question because, as I'm working with candidates, that's frequently a topic of conversation, right? And I really like Dr. T's analogy there. What I would add to that is my advice to those people would be to trust your skill set. Having come from, I spent about 10 years in the med device world prior to working with HealthSource. And I can tell you what anyone who's spent time in that space would know. And that's that great clinicians don't necessarily make great business owners. And often that's not where they want to focus their time and energy, right? They got into healthcare because they care about treating patients, not looking at P&Ls or hiring and building a team, right? And the same can be said of chiropractors, where the vast majority of them got in this space because they have a passion for helping people heal, not building a business. So to that end, I tell candidates, trust the skill set that you've developed over your time in corporate America, right? Because those are really important skills to bring to this space and are really going to help a clinic flourish.
Those are skills that are commonly uncommon.
Leadership, communication, management skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, those are all great qualities that lend itself nicely to ownership of this model. So let's talk about the economics. So this brand. I guess I'll turn to you, Aaron, to talk through the investment range, what the royalties look like, and then what can we share as far as unit economics and what's in the item 19 of the FDD? Yeah,
happy to dive into that. So for the investment level, you're looking at about $350,000 to $490,000 for a single clinic. What I can tell you there is that, the big range there is really going to be driven by your site selection, right? Are you getting into a space that's pretty close to move-in ready, or are you getting into a space that's going to require a lot of construction, right? We've had numerous validators who shared that they're typically on the lower end of that range, some significantly below that, right? So there's definitely a way to do this without being at the higher end of that range. As it relates to the item 19, we've actually just refiled the 2022 FDD, or the FDD with 2022 numbers, and we've saw really great growth across the board there. So we see an average gross revenue of about $483,000, but the margins are probably what's most compelling here, in that their average gross profit is $321,000. Meanwhile, their top quartile is doing just under $900,000 and $600,000 respectively for gross profit. So some really impressive margins there for the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is for a brick and mortar, it's a reasonable investment level, multiple revenue streams. And definitely, you know, in a concept like this, the big swinger or the differential is that site selection. So, regarding site selection, Aaron, does, you know, with somebody that is investing, is that a resource that HealthSource provides as far as looking for ideal sites in a given territory?
Yes, they do. So, and in fact, you know, at Replum we have a group called the Build 'em team who assists in that as well. So really, for any candidate coming in, they should know that they're going to have a ton of support when it comes down to site selection. You've got the benefit and the scale of the Build 'em organization at Replum, but you also have the insight and the experience of the HealthSource team, who's been doing this for a number of years now, right? So they're going to be providing a lot of support to newsies coming in on that front.
All right. Well, before we got started, Dr. T was sharing with me that you have a full pipeline of individuals that are interested in this brand. I know that opening it up to non-chiropractic individuals has opened up a whole new market for you guys. So again, just to recap, 140 locations currently open and operating throughout the United States. Another 45 are currently are in the process of being built, and a whole slew of individuals interested in getting into this market. So on a last note, Aaron or Dr. T, how many clinics, can the United States withhold? How much runway do we still have available for investors?
Oh, Aaron, let me jump in on this one. Okay, so there's 73,000 license holders in this country, and there are 44,000 clinics. So we haven't even scratched the surface. So for this country, 3,500, 4,500 clinics, not a stretch by any means. But we're not going to restrict ourselves to this country.
Oh, so when do we venture out into other markets, Dr. T?
Soon. We're looking at several right now that Aaron and I were just talking about a few days ago, and we're out in Phoenix together at a conference. So we'll be we're analyzing that today.
Oh, so you're not going to spill the tea on my podcast, huh?
Not just yet.
Well, thanks for the teaser. All right, you guys. Thank you so much, Aaron and Dr. T, for joining me today. This is a fantastic concept. It's an opportunity to get in on a concept that changes people's lives. You're making a difference in people's lives, and this is not going away. So for anybody that is interested in learning more about HealthSource, America's chiropractor, please feel free to reach out to me at Stacie@fusionfranchising.com. Thanks, gentlemen. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacie.
My pleasure.